डोनाल्ड ट्रंप मीडिया से गुफ्तगू कर रहे हैं, आपको बराह रास्त लिए चलते हैं।
Fantastic. Thank you very much for being here. As well as FDA Commissioner Marty McCary, CMS Administrator Dr. Mehmet Oz, NIH Director Dr. Jay Bhattacharya. See how easy that name is? It used to give me a little trouble. That was a tough name. Congressman Morgan Luttrell, who's a friend of mine and he's a real war hero. He knows something that a lot of us will never find out about. Retired U.S. Navy SEAL Marcus Luttrell, the two of them. I don't know what's in your blood, fellas. You good? Yeah, good somebody. Good to have you. Joe Rogan, who's a fantastic person. We did a little interview before the election. We had over 300 million people. And I said, oh man, I hope Kamala doesn't do it. And she didn't. He wanted her to do it, but she didn't. Someday Joe's going to explain why. I could tell you why. But along with many other, because she didn't want to, with many other veterans. And I just want to thank the people behind me are outstanding. It's an amazing group. The executive order I'm signing, we're actually signing the executive order today, is really a moment. It directs the FDA to expedite their review of certain psychedelics already designated as breakthrough therapy drugs. They're very much being discussed. It's one of the hottest things I think you're talking about, Oz, right? It's nothing. If these turn out to be as good as people are saying, it's going to have a tremendous impact on this country and other countries too. These treatments are currently in the advanced stages of clinical trials to ensure that they're both safe and effective for the American patients. And the nice part is we're actually doing this early, but it has been going on. Research has been going on for quite some time. But usually with things like this, nothing ever happens, no matter how the research ends up. But we're changing that. This order will clear away unnecessary bureaucratic hurdles, improve data sharing among the FDA and the Department of Veterans Affairs, and facilitate fast rescheduling of any psychedelic drugs that become FDA approved. And we think many of them will go very quickly. And I have to say the most favored nations pricing that I established, has been knocking the cost of drugs down by 50, 60, 70, 80%. And I also want to thank you and Bobby for the great job you've done. It's incredible. And the press refuses to write about it. I think it's probably as big as what we're talking about today. The drug costs are going down and by the way, Trump RX, which is the way you go to get your very low cost drugs. But when you think in my first term, for 28 years, drug prices went up, and I got it down 1/4 or 1/8%. I was so proud of myself. It's the only one that in 28 years got them down. And I had a news conference to explain how great I was. I said, I'm the greatest there ever was. I got it down 1/8%. Okay? I was very proud because it only went up. For 28 years, it went up. Now I got it down a little bit. And now I got it down 50%, 60%, 70% with these guys. So now I am, But nobody wants to write about it. But it doesn't matter because the people have found out and they're getting, we're the highest, we were the highest in the world by far. Sometimes would be 10 times higher than other countries. You'd buy a drug, I call it the fat pill or the fat drug. You'd buy it in London, you'd buy it for $10 for a pill, let's say, or a pill generally, but actually to be specific, London, $87, New York, $1,300. I said, how can that be possible? How can it be possible? $87. And actually a friend of mine called me up and he said, he's a very rich guy. And he happens to be on this Ozempic, I guess, at the time, and it was not working, by the way. The guy was extremely successful, but highly neurotic, got a lot of problems. I will not mention his name. He's begging me not to mention it because he's become quite famous. He's a big factor here, but he's very smart, very rich guy, very, very successful guy. And he said, "Hey, President," he used to call me Donnie. Now he calls me President, sign of respect. He said, I'm in London. I bought this stuff for $87. In New York, I pay $1,300. What's going on? I said, well, that's the way it is. We pay the highest prices in the world. And it sort of hit me. that how ridiculous it is. Made, by the way, he checked it. He had a whole big research done on it because he couldn't believe it. Made in the same factory, same plant, everything was the same except the price. And now we are the lowest price. We are tied. In other words, whatever the lowest price in the world is, that's the price we pay. That's a tremendous difference. So we'll be paying, they go up a little bit. So the 87 will go like to 120 and we'll go down from 1,300 to 120. So we'll have these massive price cuts, and they've already started. And I think it's one of the biggest things, but unfortunately the press doesn't like to talk about it. But because if I were a Democrat, it would be headlines all over the place. But so I do that. That's why I like live television, actually. It's great because you can't do any cutting. But we're so honored by that, and that's going to have a huge impact on this also, because the pricing, not only is it important, but the pricing is going good. And you're going to get the rescheduling done, right, please? Sure. So will you get the rescheduling done, please? You know, they're slow walking me on rescheduling. Okay, you're going to get it done, right? In 2024 study from Stanford University, 30 special operation veterans with traumatic brain injuries underwent, it's called ibogaine treatment. Ibogaine. Remember the name. Is that pronounced relatively properly, would you say?
Yes.
I don't want to get it wrong. Ibogaine, because it's so important, and experienced an 80 to 90% reduction in symptoms of depression and anxiety within 1 month. Can I have some, please? I'll take some. I'll take whatever it takes. I don't have time to be depressed. You know, if you stay busy enough, maybe that works too. That's what I do. In Texas, Republican leaders have already committed $50 million to the ibogaine research, and today the federal government is making a $50 million research investment in its own, and so that was just approved just last night. We're also opening a pathway for ibogaine to be administered to desperately ill patients under the right to try law. That's a law that I started and I got, right to try. Very proud of that. It was done in my first term, and I used to marvel at the fact that people that were terminally ill could not get a drug. They're terminally ill. They're going to die, and the FDA, right, Marty?
That's right.
Jay? The FDA was protecting them from dying, but they're going to die. And so we have these incredible drugs, and they may work and they may not work, but we wouldn't let anybody get them because they were bad for your health. But these are people that were going to die. And it never made sense to me. So one of the first things I did early in my term, and it was very tough to get, actually, hard to believe. It was very tough with Congress, but they came through, the Republicans came through. And we have something called Right to Try, and we've saved thousands and thousands of lives. That's if you're terminally ill or very ill, and there is a new drug that is not available because it's gone through the process of the FDA, and Marty's cut that process down by 50%. We're down, it used to take 12 years, and now we have it down to 5 or 6 years, and it's one of the most important things that you can do. But if you're terminally ill, and there's a new drug that may work or may not work, but it hasn't been approved yet, you sign a document, and you're not going to hold the country liable. You're not going to hold the drug companies or the insurance companies or anybody liable, and you have the right to try. And what it's done, and nobody wanted it, the insurance companies hated it, even the doctors, they were all afraid of it because they didn't want to be sued. But I took all of the liability out of it. You sign a document, you're not going to sue the doctor, you're not going to sue the hospital, you're not going to sue anybody, including the country, and everybody signs it like immediately. And we have tens of thousands of people on this, and we've saved thousands and thousands of lives. And what it has done, we never thought of it so much as, but what it has done is, in some cases, these drugs are working so good, it literally cures people that were terminally ill. But it's one of the things I'm most proud. I'm proud of a lot of things we've done, but that's one of the things we're most proud of, Right to Try. But I've always believed in ensuring that the American patients have access to breakthrough treatments and therapies with love for our veterans. And I have real love for our veterans. I was with a group yesterday. It's incredible what they've gone through. And care for American patients. Today's order will ensure that people suffering from debilitating symptoms might finally have a chance to reclaim their lives and lead a happier life. You know, just lead a happier life. They've been through so much. So I'd like to ask Secretary Kennedy to say a few words, followed by Commissioner McCary, Marcus Luttrell, Joe Rogan, and anybody in the group that would like to speak. You're tremendous people. I know many of you, and you're really highly respected people. And the Luttrell family is well represented, but I don't mind having both Luttrells. Both Luttrells can say a few words, okay? Great people. And so, Bobby, do you want to start it off, please?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, and thanks to the leadership of President Trump for making this historic day possible. Under the executive order, HHS will accelerate research, approval, and access to new mental health treatments, including psychedelic therapies such as Ibogaine. We're taking this decisive step to confront one of the most urgent public health challenges facing our nation, the mental health crisis. More than 14 million Americans live with serious mental illness, and 1 in 4 adults experiences a diagnosable disorder each year. Suicide has risen by more than 30% over the past 2 decades, with another peak in recent years. Among veterans, more than 6,000 die by suicide each year since 2001. We have lost far more veterans to suicide than to combat. At the same time, millions of Americans living with depression, PTSD, addiction, and other conditions do not respond to existing treatments. We owe it to our warfighters and veterans to turn over every stone to alleviate the emotional and mental health blowback from their deployments. It's disturbing to me and to the President that hundreds, in fact thousands of veterans are having to travel to Mexico or other countries to experiment with interventions that hold great promise, but for which our knowledge is still insufficient. This executive order will remove the legal impediments that block American researchers, scientists, physicians, and clinicians from properly studying these medicines, and where appropriate, establishing protocols for their safe therapeutic use. We're directing the FDA to prioritize therapies that have received breakthrough therapy designation, treatments that early evidence suggests may improve what we have today. We're expanding the use of right to try so that eligible patients with treatment-resistant conditions can access these therapies under medical supervision. We're also coordinating with the DEA and the Department of Justice to begin rescheduling reviews after successful phase 3 trials. When the FDA determines a therapy is safe and effective, patients should not face avoidable delays in access. At the same time, HHS will work with states, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and other federal partners to strengthen research and share clinical data. We will use that data to support faster evidence-based decisions. Through ARPA-H, HHS will allocate, as the President says, at least $50 million from existing funds to partner with states that are advancing these therapies. We will support those efforts with funding, with technical assistance and data sharing consistent with applicable law. Researchers at Johns Hopkins, Stanford, and Harvard, and other leading institutions have reported meaningful and, in some cases, extraordinary clinical improvements. If these results continue, these therapies could offer longer-lasting relief, not just symptom management, and reduce economic burden of mental illness, which costs this country hundreds of billions of dollars every year. This policy creates a strict, science-based pathway for FDA approval and controlled medical use. The bottom line is progress in mental health treatment has not matched the scale of the problem. I want to thank Joe Rogan for helping bring national attention to innovative, potentially life-saving treatments for veterans and others living with mental illness, and for pushing this conversation into the mainstream. I also want to thank Representative Morgan Luttrell from Texas and former Navy SEAL Marcus Luttrell for their leadership on this issue. I also want to thank the CEO of Americans for Ibogaine, Brian Hubbard, and the organization's ambassador, former Navy SEAL Henry Berkowitz, and former SEAL Team 6, Rob O'Neill, I want to thank a couple of people for getting this record time across the finish line, Callie Means and Dr. Heidi Overton. Thank you, Heidi, for your leadership and for your attention to detail, which is often frustrating, but always right. So thank you, and thank you above all, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Bobby, and you're fantastic. Bobby's really done an amazing job. You know, MAHA, it's a big deal, and I want to thank you. You work so hard, Oz and everybody up here, and I just want to thank you. Great job. And he's somewhat outside of the box, would you say? And that we need outside of the box a little bit, right? Would you say, Oz? Marty, please.
Great. Thank you, Mr. President. Next week, the FDA will issue 3 national priority vouchers for serotonin 2A agonists, also known as psychedelics. Under this new program, in this administration, drugs can get approved in weeks, not a year or a year plus, but in weeks, if they are in line with our national priorities. We have 18 vouchers in the program. We'll be adding 3 more next week. This is an unmet public health need, and there are potentially promising treatments. That's why there's a sense of urgency around this. That's why we're doing it now. The applications are about to come in, so this is the natural, perfect timing for this announcement. For many men and women, they have been fighting battles on the ground. But even after the wars are over, those battles continue in their mind. Now, there are a lot of medications in medicine where we don't know exactly how it works, but we see profound results. If we actually listen to those who experience the therapeutic value, we can learn as a medical field. We just have to listen. The stories of those individuals with dramatic results, that is data. That is scientific data, even from a single individual. We also have randomized controlled trials. And we have to do that because we need to be able to say there's good support when we recommend these therapeutics. If you look at those trials, there's a 30 to 40% remission rate for conditions like PTSD. Otherwise, we got nothing. We have almost nothing for these conditions. And today, the FDA is also announcing the first ibogaine investigational new drug clearance. This will pave the way for the first and ever human trials in the United States. To be clear, the FDA will also have criteria and circumstances that have to be used to administer these drugs. These drugs can have side effects, and so it's not like you go to the pharmacy and pick it up. It's like medications that are administered in an ICU or an operating room. There are criteria for doing it in a controlled setting. Finally, given the urgency of today's mental health crisis, I just want to thank you, Mr. President, and say the FDA is proud to support this broader effort to evaluate new therapeutics for some of the greatest Americans we have in this country.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Doing a great job, too. Appreciate it. Marcus?
Yes, sir. To start off, Mr. President, thank you so much for having us in here and doing this. You're going to save a lot of lives with it. I'd like to say how grateful I am to have had the opportunity to go through the program and receive the ibogaine. It absolutely changed my life for the better. I went through a lot of the programs that the veterans are going through, and I always kind of felt like I was a victim coming out of the program. When I came out of this, I felt like I had gotten my life back. That was 5 years ago. I literally lived the best days of my life every single day. I'm so thankful for everybody who's in this room to help out with this. I know this is kind of a new frontier for us, and just the fact that we're taking this kind of slow as smooth as fast, and we're getting it in there so we can test this out so that we don't get ahead of ourselves. I think that's very impactful. I think there's a lot of people out there that need help, not only our veterans, but our
अमेरिकी सदर डोनाल्ड ट्रंप मीडिया से गुफ्तगू कर रहे हैं। एक बार फिर आपको प्रहारित लिए चलते हैं।
Already, indirect research, maybe the ultimate research, people that have taken it, because I've spoken to people that have taken it, aside from the trail, both of them. I've spoken to 5 people that
Mr. President,
that had big problems.
I've done it 3 times.
Yeah,
It works.
please.
It fixed my demonic
This
relationship.
is Rob O'Neill, who's a friend of mine and a great guy. Go ahead, Rob.
It fixed my demonic relationship with alcohol. It saved my life, and then it saved my wife. So every day is a blessing. It took about 3 years of. I did it 3 times. It's a different adventure every time. That's not fun.
So without it, you would have had problems.
I did it with, there was a Green Beret 28-year sergeant major that told me when we finished, make sure you tell Amber Capone, the CEO of Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions, that she saved my life because I was going to kill myself next week. This was my last chance. I had a 28-year veteran tell me that. This works.
Okay, good.
Mr. President,
Yes.
would you ask Marcus to speak about his experience?
Thank you, Secretary. Yeah, Mr. President, what Robin Neal was talking about, my wife Amber.
इसी के साथ न्यूज़ वर्ल्ड स्टूडियो से फिलहाल के लिए इतना ही। मज़ीद बाखबर रहने के लिए देखते रहिए न्यू न्यूज़।